You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.
That'll be a script. Script reads me.
Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
The El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about the trouble in trying to get responsible, one-sided news stories
plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Yo, we trade actors, motherfucker.
Hey, good day to you all. Welcome to the new. I'm your host, Randy Perm, as it says down there. Hey, I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. I kind of did. I really didn't do much of anything this weekend. I was more so focused on just catching up on some reading and doing a little bit of engaging on social media. Nothing exciting. Nothing out of the norm, I should say. But anyways, happy Motivated Monday. Yes. And so today we're going to cover some world news. Kind of gotten away from talking about world news, stuff that's going on around the world outside the United States, because there was so much going on in the United States that just kind of ran down a rabbit hole with U.S. business. But today we're going to kind of just get caught up on what's going on around the world, because there are a lot of interesting things going on around the world. And although I've been keeping up with it anyways, I just have not been discussing it here with you all. So, but most notably, I can say most notably, but notably, this story, the UK, the former UK Health Minister Matt Hancock was, forced to resign, but he resigned last week due to breaking the country's coronavirus, COVID, social distancing, don't hug each other, don't kiss each other rules type of thing. Well, but the story goes a little deeper than just that. Allegedly, he was carrying on an affair with one of his aides, and they were caught on, I guess it appeared to be like a hallway camera of them hugging and kissing. So that's not what got people upset about it. They're like, he's hugging and kissing somebody, and we're supposed to be practicing social distancing. That's what they're actually upset about, is the fact that he broke social distancing rules. Although, when you look at footage from out of the UK surrounding the story, you see that they're not only not wearing masks, hardly anymore, I guess because they're vaccinated, but they're shaking hands, they're in close proximity of each other, whispering and discussing, talking about things. But it's not okay for boyfriend and girlfriend, I just put it that way, to hug and kiss in public because there's social distancing rules. Now that could be just the cover story, but the backstory was the fact that he is a married man and he's carrying on an affair with an office worker, which is a subordinate employer and employee conflict of interest. But okay, if that's the story y'all want to run with, fine. But let's look at the more granular issue here. You're still enforcing social distancing, and you still have these lockdown rules, which, by the way, London decided to erupt over the weekend into protesting the lockdowns, because all the other figures of the country are going about their daily lives, doing whatever and everything else. And there's been a series of people that have subsequently resigned from the government because they were caught in places like restaurants or on vacation somewhere away from their home during the lockdowns. So the London people, the people of the UK, were like, you know what, we're not doing this. And so you have to ask yourself, is there any really has there really been any effectiveness in keeping down the number of infections because of lockdowns? And we can see no, because people are still violating these rules and going out socializing and doing everything else, so the numbers are staying high. So it's kind of like, at this point, it's like, all right, let's implement Darwinism here and just survival of the fittest, let's just go on about our daily lives. I've been saying this for a couple of years now. Go about your daily lives, and you live, you don't. And that's kind of like how everything else works in the world. But but going back to this story here, I wish they would have covered this a little better. I wish they would have kind of said, hey, they were caught having in an affair, and not to mention, they by them living in different households, broken social distancing rules. I wish they would have covered it that way. That way, I guess it would have kind of been like, okay. But you're forcing somebody to resign saying because they broke COVID rules. Folks, this is why we had the revolution with them. So, I don't know. Hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. But on a more, I guess, say serious note, Sweden, the country of Sweden, has a political crisis unfolding right now. They're going through a turbulent time in politically defining their role in Parliament. And I found this video here that kind of speaks to exactly what's going on, and it does a great job of explaining the dichotomy of European politics versus American U.S. politics. And when you say American politics, we have to be careful, because South America, Canada, all America. So you have to specify with U.S. politics. U.S. politics is very, very different than European politics in terms of their governmental setup. So this video here will give some details, but at the same time also gloss over some things that you may, if you're not familiar with European setup, European political setup, then you're kind of going to be confused a little bit. But hopefully not. I will explain after the video. But nonetheless, before I show you this video, one thing that we have to realize is that when parties take control of government, there's this thing called a unified government, which means that the head of that government, the president, or in the European case, prime minister, is one party, and the parliament, or in our case, the Congress, is the same. They're both of the same party. So the executive branch and the legislative branch of the United States equivalent of Europe, if they're all in the same of the same party, they kind of can do what they want in terms of policies, pushing an agenda, and everything else. European politics is slightly different. They have to, because they have so many parties, unlike the U.S. where we have just two dominant parties. In the U.S., you have, in Europe, you have several different parties, and so the construct there is whoever has the most seats, if they don't hit a certain threshold, then they have to work with other parties to come into their camp. Not necessarily change parties, but come into their camp to say, hey, we will support your policies and everything else. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in this video. And that's how they they form a government. So you hear the term, they have to form a government and everything else in order to move forward. Check it out.
This video was brought to you by our Patreon backers like Ian B. Find out more and support the channel by clicking the link below. So, Sweden is currently living through a bit of a political crisis, with the government falling apart and no clear path forward. But to fully understand this crisis, you probably have to go back to the last general election in 2018. Historically, Sweden has either been ruled by a centre-right coalition called the Alliance, or a centre-left coalition, sometimes known as the Red-Green Coalition. However, in recent years things have got more complicated, with the rise of the Sweden Democrats. The Sweden Democrats are probably best described as right-wing nationalists. They're anti-immigration, insofar as they want stricter immigration controls, oppose offering permanent residency to asylum seekers, and reject multiculturalism. They're also Eurosceptic. They campaigned for Swexit until 2019, and they want to keep the krona over the euro. As well as that, they occasionally say some controversial stuff about Islam. In 2017, one Sweden Democrat politician said that Muslims weren't completely human, and in 2018, another said, "I hate all Muslims, to the extent that I get sick when I see them." Now, it's worth noting that Strid was immediately kicked out of the Sweden Democrats, and the Sweden Democrats insist that their gripe isn't with Islam specifically, but with Islamism and any other extremist ideologies. But we're not going to try and get into a debate about whether the Sweden Democrats are Islamophobic. We're only mentioning it because it's a large part of the reason that other mainstream Swedish parties have refused to go into coalition with them. This became a bit of a problem in the 2010 general election, which was the first time that the Sweden Democrats' vote share topped the minimum threshold of 4%. The Sweden Democrats won 5.7% of the vote that year, awarding them 20 out of the 349 available seats, while the Red-Green Coalition got 156, and the Alliance won the remaining 173 seats, falling just shy of the 175 needed for a majority. The Alliance formed a minority government, which was in practice relatively well functioning because they were only a few seats short of a majority, and could often rely on Green Party MPs for the extra votes. However, the problem got worse in 2014, when the Sweden Democrats won 13% of the vote, giving them 49 seats. This time, the Red Greens won 159 seats, while the Alliance won 141. The Red Greens, without the Left Party, formed a minority government of just 138 seats, 37 shy of majority, making it the smallest government in Swedish history to begin a term. This government was not particularly functional, and actually failed to pass its first budget on December 3rd, 2014. However, after threatening an election and negotiating with the alliance parties, the Red Greens finally passed their budget on December 27th, with the support of the alliance parties, who lent their support in return for concessions in other policy areas, like immigration. There's sort of a positive feedback loop going on here. The Sweden Democrats, an anti-establishment party, win enough seats to deny the establishment parties a majority, The establishment parties then refused to go into a coalition with the Swedish Democrats, leaving them with a minority government. The minority establishment government is ineffective, so people vote for the anti-establishment Swedish Democrats, who get more seats, forcing an even smaller minority government, making the establishment parties look less and less effective. All of this takes us to the most recent election in 2018. The Sweden Democrats won 17.5% of the popular vote this year, leaving them with 62 seats in the Swedish parliament, and again, leaving neither the centre-right nor centre-left with a majority. Over the next 3 months, the Social Democrats, the Moderates, and the Centre Party all tried to form a government with majority support in the parliament, and all failed, in large part because most of the parties were unwilling to rely on the Sweden Democrats for support. The Moderates tried to form an alliance with the Sweden Democrats, but the Centre Party and Liberals refused. After threatening another election, Löfven's Social Democrats finally succeeded, supported by the Greens, with the Liberals, Centre Party and the Left Party all agreeing to abstain from the vote. According to Sweden's constitution, the government just needs more than half of the parliament not to vote against it. So even though only 115 MPs voted for this new government and 153 voted against it, this was enough to get things started. Essentially, Löfven had a minority government, composed of the Social Democrats and Greens, so just 116 seats, while the Liberals, Centre Party and Left Party agreed not to vote down the government as long as they got some sort of influence over policy. This agreement, known as the January Agreement, was, in retrospect, clearly not going to be politically stable. Now, one of the conditions of the January Agreement was to do with rent controls. Essentially, the Liberals and Centre Party wanted to scrap rent controls for new buildings, something the Social Democrats and especially the Greens were very much in favour of. Rent controls are designed to make housing more affordable, but at least according to the Liberals and the Centre Party, mean that fewer new build properties get built in the first place, which they see as the primary cause of Sweden's current housing crisis. Anyway, the Social Democrats eventually gave up and said that if the Liberals and Centre Party would support them, they'd scrap rent controls. The Green Party made clear at the time that they were against this, and actually said that they'd no confidence in the government if they went ahead with it. Nonetheless, the Greens supported the January Agreement anyway, presumably hoping to renegotiate it with the government when it actually came to the relevant legislation. Which brings us to now. On June 8th, a government-commissioned report into rent control legislation was published. Despite the fact that no legislation had even been tabled yet, a week later, the Left Party threatened to bring a no-confidence vote against the government. However, according to the Swedish constitution, you need 35 votes to force a no-confidence vote, and the Left Party only had 27. Now, confusingly, the mainstream opposition parties, the Moderates and Christian Democrats, said that they wouldn't table a no-confidence vote because they're in favour of market rents, but if someone else tabled it, then they'd vote against the government. Enter the Sweden Democrats, who are against market rents, very much against the government, and have more than 35 MPs. The Sweden Democrats realised that if the Left Party hated market rents more than voting with the Sweden Democrats, then they'd have a majority against the government. So, the Sweden Democrats tabled the motion of no confidence, and the Left Party did indeed vote against the government. The motion was passed 181 to 109, making Löfven the first Swedish Prime Minister in history to lose a no-confidence vote. Löfven was given a week to either resign or call a snap election, which would have to be held in the next 3 months. If he resigns, then it's up to the Speaker to investigate whether a new government could be formed. It's very possible that Löfven forms a new government, both because he's a good negotiator and because the Left Party probably don't actually want to topple a government that they've been propping up. They just want them to listen a bit more when it comes to rent controls. And because the Liberals and the Green Party are currently both polling below the minimum threshold of 4%, so are desperate to avoid an election. Whatever he decides to do though, it probably won't solve the fundamental problem. If neither the Red Greens nor the Alliance are willing to work with the Sweden Democrats, then they can't expect stable majority governments, at least as long as the Sweden Democrats keep winning seats. Let us know your thoughts though. What do you think will happen next? Chuck your opinions in the comments below.
As you can see, very different system, but it's actually quite the same. So the Prime Minister kind of serves in the role of the President equivalent of the United States. Now, with a Congress or a parliament in their case, if the parliament changes hands in terms of having a majority and it becomes a different party, that prime minister can face, usually do, losing what's called a no confidence vote, and they have to switch out. Now, similarly, that's what happens in the U.S. with a presidential election. This is why we have off cycles. You have the Congress every 2 years, presidency every 4 years, and the Senate every 6 years. This is to keep a balance of power in the government, in the United States government, because otherwise you will have chaos like you just saw in European politics. And so the founding fathers kind of thought about that they thought through that process of, man, we can have a snap election like every few years because the parties have changed so much because of the fact that the parliament has so frequent of elections. So to safeguard that, you create the presidency at 4 years, you create the Senate at 6. That way it maintains some semblance of power. Now, on that 4th year of the presidential election, if there is still a no confidence vote because the parties in Congress, both the House and the Senate, still have a majority in opposition of the presidency, then this is where you see the president switches out. Look at history. Folks, we're going to jump to a commercial break. We'll be right back. Keep it locked right here.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.
Hey, welcome back. So, our Reach One campaign, ladies and gentlemen, one show, or all of the shows, for 1 week. And let us know how we're doing. Give us some feedback. We're striving to improve and bring you quality programming as alternative means of getting your news, entertainment, and what have you. So, www.tecntv.com. Pick out a show or watch all of the shows, and let us know how we're doing and what we can improve on and what to get rid of. Matter of fact, I am implementing one of the suggestions this week starting on today's show, and that is changing around the titling of this program. So, but anyways, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He's 82 years old. I didn't know he was that old. He doesn't look. He looks good for his age. But at 82 years old, he received the country's first homegrown. Watch this. Homegrown vaccine last week, and it's weird because you're watching this country who is under sanctions go through trying to be a little westernized in a sense in doing certain things. They just had an election recently in which the new president, he's considered to be a hardliner and rallying against the United States and other countries who are sanctioning against Iran for their terrorist activities in other parts of the world. But anyways, back to this COVID variant vaccine. Iran developed their own in-house vaccine in response to not wanting to take or receive U.S. or British vaccines. They also partnered with Russia to get some vaccines of their Sputnik vaccine out of Russia, but they created more so a homegrown version of their own vaccine, and it's called I can't make this stuff up. Coviran, Coviran, Barakat. And this vaccine does require that you have 2 doses of it. And I just when I saw the story in the video I'm about to show you, you'll see it all come together. But Iran has 83 million people in their population, 83 million, and they recorded just around 83,000 deaths from COVID. Now, we're not going to get into the semantics there, but just for argument's sake here, 83 million people, 83,000 deaths. That's what? 1%? Of their 91%. Yeah, 1%. I'm doing fuzzy math here. Yeah, 1%. 1% of their population that got the COVID and coronavirus and passed away, allegedly. Now, you would think with the different vaccines being spread around the world, that why would you expend your own very little at that resources in trying to develop and push your own vaccine for your people? Doesn't really quite pass the common sense test, but I get it. Check it out. The optics there just does not look good, ladies and gentlemen. First off, I don't know why is there this need to put on, you know, the glitz and glamour of getting a shot. if I had the cameras on me every time I went and got a shot, it'd be like, man, you know, wow. But no, I get it. As a leader of a country, you want to show your people that, hey, I'm doing this as well, so it creates that encouragement for others to do it. I get that, but they were doing a little bit much. You know, you got 2 people giving a shot and being all cautious and everything else. And the facial expression, though, the facial expression that he was giving, like, I hope this works, and I hope this doesn't kill me. The look of uncertainty in his eyes. I'll play it again for you. It's like he's thinking about, is my wheel updated? I don't mean to make fun of people, but that's just hilarious to me. But anyways, over in Hong Kong, Hong Kong is going through a very tumultuous time right now because they're one of the, I guess you could say, most pro-democracy cities in China. And outside of the spat with China and Taiwan, removing that, Hong Kong is one of these cities there in China where they kind of have a sense of autonomy against the country's communist regime there. And so recently, the pro-democracy newspaper called Apple Daily, not sure if there's any affiliation with Apple, the product itself, but Apple Daily newspaper was forcibly shut down, and all of the leadership of the company were either arrested or their assets were frozen, and the company, the newspaper was forced to shut down after being in business for 26 years. And this comes in wake of China, Beijing, Xi Jinping, the communist leader there in China, implemented a year ago now. It's a 1-year-old policy, but they just now, starting to enforce it. They're looking at criticism of the government, of the Chinese government, as a national security threat. Yes, you heard that correctly. If you reside in the country of China and you criticize the country, you could be subjugated to prison or death even, all under the name of national security. Folks, I want to let you marinate on that for a minute and think about the implications of that. That is like anti-democracy to its full stop. Could you imagine us in the United States? We're already kind of seeing the taste of it with the censorship on social media and crimes against hate speech. We're kind of seeing a little taste of that. But just imagine that you cannot criticize your own government publicly without facing some kind of like life-threatening detriment. So but this is what they're going through right now. And right now there's calls in the US, there's calls for sanctions to be implemented against China for this action, because it's, number one, it's really unwarranted. Innocent newspaper that publishes stories and talks about the government periodically here and there, or daily even, and the government is like taken aback by it and like, oh, you think you're gonna talk about me? And and then they go after him and shut him down. Think back a couple of weeks ago to the President Putin out of Russia, his press conference, and how the media was pressing him about certain things that goes on in his country. And one of the key things that he said, he actually said two very key things. One of my friends on Facebook that's from Ukraine was kind of upset with me, thinking I was supporting him, but I was just emphasizing that the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, highlighted two key things. Number one, it's our country, it's our way of life, this is how we do things. And then the second thing was, in the United States, the American media plays itself against each other and don't really tell the story how it should be told. He called out the American media for being garbage, in a sense, and he pointed out that, you know, our country and other countries, we do things the way that we do them. We do them for a reason. We don't allow protesting and all this stuff that goes on that you're doing right now in your countries. So we're being put on Front Street by other countries as being hypocritical because we're trying to advance democracy and we're trying to tell people how to treat their human beings. They're like, yeah, you fix your crap first, and then come talk to us. Matter of fact, I was just reading a story, an article out of Foreign Affairs. This month's article. If you run across Foreign Affairs, the magazine, it's an article that starts on page 150, and it's called "Practice What You Preach. Global Human Rights Leadership Begins at Home." And so it's a pretty scathing article so far about how the United States is being looked at as being a hypocritical country, trying to tell other countries how to handle, you know, their populations in a sense. So, but anyways, back to China and Hong Kong's newspaper being shut down. So the U.S. is calling for sanctions once again, dipping our nose into their business, for shutting down their newspaper, calling it being anti-democratic. Take a look.
Two leading U.S. senators have called on President Joe Biden to punish those responsible for the shutdown of Hong Kong's Apple Daily newspaper. That comes as Hong Kong promoted security officials to top roles in government, a move critics say will tighten China's grip on the territory. Senators Pat Toomey and Chris Van Hollen say Biden should use the Hong Kong Autonomy Act passed last year, which requires sanctions on persons and entities that directly undermine Hong Kong's autonomy, and secondary sanctions on banks that do business with them. In their letter to Biden, Toomey and Van Hollen further suggested foreign banks could be implicated, referring to threats made by Hong Kong Security Secretary John Lee last month. Lee had threatened HSBC and Citibank with up to 7 years in jail for any financial dealings with Apple Daily owner Jimmy Lai. Lee also ordered the banks to freeze Jimmy Lai's accounts. The White House and State Department did not immediately respond to requests for comment. On Thursday, Biden called the Apple Daily's closure a sad day for media freedom and said it signaled intensifying repression by China. He vowed to maintain support for the people of Hong Kong without mentioning any plans for sanctions. Meanwhile, John Lee was promoted to Hong Kong's chief secretary position on Friday, second only to Chief Executive Carrie Lam, while Police Chief Chris Tang will take Lee's current position.
You get the point. So, the only response that President Biden gave in wake of this is, "Oh, it's a sad day for media." Okay, folks, we're going to jump to commercial break. We'll be right back.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.
Have you heard about Thrive? It's a question asked 1,000 times a day. The Thrive 8-week experience has become the fastest growing health and wellness movement in North America. Over 10 million people have started the experience, and anywhere from 10 to 50,000 experience orders ship out every day. Why is this 6-letter word, THRIVE, turned into a phenomenon? Because it's simple. 1. Take 2 Thrive Premium Lifestyle Capsules on an empty stomach as soon as your feet hit the floor in the morning. 2. 20 minutes later, drink a Thrive Ultra Micronized Lifestyle Mix. 3. Apply patent-pending DFT Dermafusion technology to clean, dry skin. That's it. You're all done. And now you're set to thrive for the day. Because it's innovative. We all have nutritional gaps. No matter how well we eat or live, we simply can't get the body everything it needs from a nutritional standpoint. That's why Thrive was formulated. To supplement your diet and lifestyle. Once you complete your simple Thrive 3 steps in the morning, you've now introduced 3 different Thrive formulas that synergistically work as one. Feeding your body over 100 premium grade vitamins, minerals, plant extracts, digestive enzymes, probiotics, antioxidants, protein, fiber, and more. The premium grade nutrition helps fill in your body's nutritional gaps because it flat out works. Check out what just a few Thrivers are saying about their Thrive experience.
I couldn't believe how great that I was feeling from it.
I noticed a huge difference. A huge difference. I didn't even think I needed it.
I'm down 73 pounds. I'm at my high school graduation weight.
I was more patient with my kids, sleeping better, really loving life again. I felt like I was in my 20s, early 20s again.
Because I've tried other products in the past, but it was like remembering to take this in the morning, take this in the afternoon, take this before bed. So the simplicity of those 3 steps felt like I was living my best life.
It really just rocked my world. It was energized, but it was joy.
From then on, it's just changed my life, and every day has been better.
It's like somebody installed new lights. Everything was brighter, clearer.
It's laughing and smiling and being present and not being so exhausted.
Thrive is where it's at.
Now that you've heard about Thrive, the next question is, are you ready to start the experience? Learn more at Lavelle.com and Facebook.com/LavelleBrands. Find out how to get your Thrive Experience products for free by referring 2 friends to do the experience with you. Find out how to not only earn free products, but earn commissions as well for sharing the Thrive Experience with others as a Lavelle brand promoter. The decision to take the Thrive Experience or share the experience with others is all up to you. Just start your Thrive Experience today.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.
Hey, welcome back. So, my Thrive link is always included in the comment section of the show, but just for audio purposes, you can go to www.randyperham, all one word, LE-VEL.com, and you can start your Thrive experience today, be a part of my team, and do great and wonderful things for the rest of the world. So, election fraud, not in the U.S. Peru recently had their presidential elections this couple weeks ago, back June 6th to be exact. They had their elections a couple weeks ago, but they're still going through a lot of contention right now with determining who the winner is. Because, well, they determined who the winner was. However, they're contesting it because they're alleging voter fraud. And in Peru, Pedro Castillo, who is a socialist Democrat, that's running against, forgive me if I butcher the name, Keiko Fujimori, who is running as a right-wing conservative in the country, the equivalent. Okay, they have different titles, but the equivalent. She's contesting the results, although Pedro Castillo won by they said an estimate of 44,000 votes. That's a lot of votes for small country elections. and yielding that. I could say this had 400 votes. And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do a recount, whatever. But 44,000, you might want to just go ahead and concede that one, chick. So, but anyways, so that's what's going on over in Peru right now. And the interesting thing about this presidential election in Peru is that the rural areas were the ones. It's weird. The rural areas are the ones that actually was supporting for socialist policies versus the urban areas, the urban cities like Lima, who were pushing more conservative, Republicanish policies. You don't find that anywhere else in the world. So when I was reading the story and I saw the video and everything, I was like, huh. But it goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the Sweden situation, is that you would have these party alignments that are not in a traditional sense of what we know them as, being in America, being in the United States. They don't necessarily, you could say, for example, you can be in Ireland. Ireland has a kind of a weird, although they fall under the UK in terms of the parliament, but you'll find that some of their parties actually are flip-flop in terms of views of things. So what we would consider to be right-wing views actually be left-wing views, and vice versa. So you kind of really have to be careful when you're jumping on an international stage talking politics, because you may identify even by the party names. The party names will throw you off, and you're like, oh, you're a socialist Democrat. Yeah, we're for low taxes, no government. You like you will find that. So in this instance for Peru, I find it strange. It's like, wow, that's pretty interesting that the city was pro-Republican. I'm just putting it in simple terms for our conversation here in the U.S. The city is pro-Republican, while the rural areas are pro-Democrat. You will find that usually flip-flop opposite in America. So that's why I say you have to be a little prudent and pragmatic in understanding international politics as it relates to U.S. politics, because U.S. politics is very unique within itself to, try to crossbreed conversation like that, and you find yourself on the opposite side of the coin in terms of trying to get something done with another country, with another party, or what have you. So, but anyway, check it out.
Thousands of Peruvians rallied in the streets of the capital Lima on Saturday as uncertainty swirls around the results of a tight presidential election held nearly 3 weeks ago. Supporters of socialist Pedro Castillo marched toward the Plaza San Martin near the country's election headquarters. Just a few blocks away, thousands of supporters of right-wing rival Keiko Fujimori paraded with Peruvian flags and signs that read "No to Fraud." Castillo holds a slim 44,000 vote lead over Fujimori with all ballots counted, but she has contested his apparent win and decried election fraud with little evidence. Fujimori is seeking to disqualify votes, largely in rural areas that have backed the leftist. Castillo's Free Peru party has denied the fraud allegations, and international election observers have said the vote was clean. The election has deeply divided Peruvians, with poorer rural voters rallying behind Castillo, and wealthier urban voters from Lima supporting Fujimori, the daughter of jailed ex-president Alberto Fujimori.
See what I mean? So, you notice a media talking point that was just mentioned there? Claims of election fraud with little to no evidence. You find that going across the world lately, as these elections are starting to unfold around the globe. So one thing we have to pay attention to is media jargon. I play it at the beginning of my show every week, Some people that text me and say, "Can you take that off of there? That's dumb." No, I'm not. Get over it. Unless I just feel like, okay, it's time to move on from that, or I find something better. But Operation Mockingbird is a real thing, and so when the media has to push a narrative, it would take more than one outlet to be on the same accord to push that narrative, whether it's local, state, country, or international media. And as you can see, these are things that go on. That's why they kind of say very similar things. But anyways, enough of that for today. Enough of my jibber jabber. You can pick up my book, The New You, Now Equipped with Wisdom, on Amazon.com. You can follow me on Twitter at @RPerm, and MeWe, Gab. I've been playing around on MeWe and Gab a little bit more frequently lately. So if you're on either one of those platforms, you can follow me there and connect with me, and so we can kick it on there together. Facebook, of course, naturally. LinkedIn, you can connect with me professionally on LinkedIn. You know, you can exchange ideas there as well. Also, if you're looking to be a guest on the show or advertise, be a sponsor of the show, please reach out to me, rperm@gmail.com, and we can go from there. And let's see what else. If you want to donate to the program, you can do so. Cashapp, $RPURHAM 4 US. And same thing with PayPal @RPerm 4 US. And if you want to contribute to my campaign, you can do so through those channels, or you can just go to www.rperm4us. It's right there. And the @RPerm. And you can do the same thing there. I do have a contribution app embedded into the website as well. So, but thank you all for hanging out with me for the last hour today. And we will catch you all, God willing, on Friday. So, God bless you all. Take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe out there, and don't do anything that I wouldn't do. And if you decide to do it anyways, just don't get caught. Sayonara.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.